Hey everybody, welcome back to the video on the channel. So I'm going to continue reading They Shook Hands, Year 1, Chapter 12. So let me continue where I left off. Excuse me, Harry said to his friends. He went over to where Snape was sitting. Mr. Potter, here is the sign-up. Thank you, sir. But it looks like I won't need to stay after all. Oh no, Mr. Potter, Snape asked curiously. Just the other day you were eager to stay. What has changed your mind? Draco's father has invited me to the manor, sir, Harry said happily. Professor Snape, though, frowned slyly. I'm afraid it's not as all simple as that, Mr. Potter, he said. What's the problem, sir? Harry asked as his heart leapt into his throat. He desperately did not want to see his so-called family. To go anywhere other than home, the school must receive notification of permission from Harry and the guardian, Snape explained. Advised to write a letter home and ask for such permission. Otherwise, Mr. Potter, otherwise the master will not allow it. Harry's hopes fell. While the Dursleys would no doubt be glad to be rid of him for the holiday, there was no way they would give him leave to go home with another boy. They would not sign any such permission just out of spite. Harry walked back to his friends, and Draco must have seen the disappointment in his face. What's wrong? He permission to go home to someone else, but there's no way the Dursleys will ever let me. Muggles have no business telling what a wizard what to do, Draco said firmly. Surely there's a way around this. I don't think so. Snape told me I need their approval. Never had it before. I don't see why they should suddenly give it. Chin up, Harry. Ask anyway. We'll go out, write that letter, and get it sent off. Sure enough, Arlott brought back a letter from the Dursleys written in Uncle Vernon's own hand, blue in ink on the blue-lined white paper. It forbade him to associate with any of his fellow freaks, and simply instructed the headmaster not to let Harry leave the school grounds. When Harry read the letter, he crumpled into a ball and bounced off the floor of the hall. Scowling up his face, it felt like he wanted to cry. He stomped out of the hall and headed for class. He was furious the Dursleys wished he could take the opportunity to hex them before the start of school. Those miserable muggles weren't his parents. They weren't even wizards. They didn't know where to tell him who he could and who couldn't be friends with, where he could and couldn't go. It just wasn't fair. His friends walked along with him. Nobody said anything Gaul knew must have been bad news. None of them knows that Harry's drama. Just some looking furious exit all been observed by a pair of cool blue eyes, which were glinting maliciously. The owner of those eyes waited till the Slytherin table was empty and crouched down and retrieved a crumpled ball of paper that Potter had in his anger discarded to the floor. A pair of large hands carefully smoothed out the letter. A grin to match the glint of those cool blue eyes spread across his face. He took the letter away in a pocket. It would come very handy if that he had no doubts. I do feel sorry, Weasley said loudly as he walked past the dinner table the next morning at breakfast, for all those people have to stay at Hogwarts because they aren't wanted at home. Harry felt like someone had stabbed him with a knife. Draco jumped to his feet and turned out to see Weasley standing there. What did you say, Weasley? Draco demanded in a low, dangerous voice, absent the drawl used in addressing the Gryffindors. His left hand drifted near his wand. Weasley had been even more irritating since the Quidditch match. He'd been disgusted that Gryffindor lost so spectacularly and tried to make people laugh by saying that a large-mouthed base was soon replacing Harry as Seeker. This made no one laugh except himself, because everyone was impressed by the way that Harry managed to stay out of his out-of-control broomstick. Jealous and bitter now that Weasley found something better to taunt Harry about. I think you heard me just fine, Weasley said, his nasty smile on his face. He turned and walked off, leaving a fuming Draco to comfort Harry, who was near tears. I'll get him for that, Draco spat his usual calm demeanor just long since fled. He's wanted to talk to that bastard. He'll have a proper family, they're all crowded together in one room. Harry didn't say anything. Weasley's words had cut too deep. The girls arrived at that point, and Harry immediately became the center of attention. When Draco would fill them in, they too were thirsty for revenge. Tracy put her arm around Harry, let him burrow his face to her shoulder. We know let this go, she said in an iron voice. I want to hex him myself. We're all going to get a turn, Draco said, and then he's lucky if he doesn't find use of a potion knife to slit his throat. How dare he? How did he find out? Lily asked, looking fit to be tied. Her hands were shaking, to clench spasmodically. She looked like she wanted to hit someone. We have also found the letter, Theo said, cursing. Language, Pansy reprimanded him. Go throw yourself off the battlements, he snarled back at her. I just want to go back to bed, Harry said, his voice muffled against Tracy's shoulder. Daphne took his hand. Harry, I know you don't want to face him right now, but you gotta go to potions. Presently won't let him get away with anything. I'll see if I can't say something good before class. Harry allowed himself to be led back down to the dungeon. The apple already spoke to self-warming charm with the others. He was numb, not feeling much of anything. He sat listlessly at a station with Tracy while Daphne and Draco locked the same door and went inside. Gryffindors arrived. Professor Snape came out of his office and lesson began. They set to work on the hair-raising potion. Harry paid attention to what he was doing. He did only what Tracy told him to do. Several times the rest of Snape passed by the workstation and he appraised Harry with a long gaze, though he said nothing. Longbottom and Weasley were at a workstation together. The pair had worked in tandem ever since the other Gryffindors realized they were both hopelessly inept at potions, and the rest of them stood a better chance of earning good marks by not being anywhere near either one of them. They lost Gryffindor many points, but that would have happened regardless. Today the pair managed to screw up even more than normal, Weasley scalding it and lose its shape, melting and deforming. As bubbling blue potions seeped out of the melody cauldron onto the floor, Snape finally snapped. Idiots! He thundered at them. They're both trying to wipe hot potion off of themselves and out of their hair, which are curling up in tight spirals like a poodle's. I have never in my entire career as a teacher seen a pair of students more competent than you two. Even your worthless practical joker brothers Weasley have at least some idea of how to properly brew a potion. I'm disgusted by the both of you. 20 points of Gryffindor for gross incompetence. Sir, Weasley began. Longbottom was cowering in fear. And attention, Snape shouted him down. You will remain in class and scour out every student's cauldron with a toothbrush. Be thankful it's not your own brush you'll be using. Weasley's glaring daggers across the room at the Slytherins. He clearly suspected they had something to do with the situation. Longbottom had melted plenty of cauldrons before. He himself had screwed up dozens of potions before, but neither of them had ever gotten attention for it. Weasley knew that was all he could do. He had no proof. Harry didn't want to go up to lunch with his friends. He crawled into bed trying to forget about what a horrible day it had been. It was bad if the Muggles were interfering in his life, but now Weasley knew about his home life would spread it all across the school. Why was he so stupid as to leave the letter lying around? Why hadn't he torn it up or burned it or something? His friends came back to lunch and jolly him into some semblance of good spirits. They were unsuccessful. Harry, who had been quiet in his bed, Weed in bed as well. Rodrigo hauled him out of bed in the early evening. Presley was in the common room, he told Harry. He wants to stay here at school or over the holiday. Harry tried to turn over and go back to sleep. Harry, you've got to sign the list yourself. Snape had to bring you. Grumbling, Harry got to his feet and pulled on his dressing gown. He followed Draco out of the common room to where Professor Snape was seated in a chair by the fire. Sorry, he said politely. Snape praised him with a cool eye. You look horrible, Mr. Potter. Surely Weasley's words can't have upset you that much. I'll be staying here at school, sir. Harry's voice was lifeless. He didn't want to talk about it. Snape presented him with the list and scrawled his name on it with the quill that Draco handed it to him. The Draco's list put his own name neatly below it. Snape raised an eyebrow. Mr. Malfoy, he questioned. I'm not leaving him here by myself, Draco said firmly. That just wouldn't be proper. The parchment was rolled up and disappeared into Snape's sleeve. As you wish, Mr. Malfoy. Good evening to you all. Sir, they said in response. Draco, your father's going to have kids when he finds out about this, Harry, as he warned him. She'll be working on potions homework nearby. I don't care, Draco snapped. Let him have a fit. I told Harry to do spending Christmas with me, and I mean to keep my promise. If father doesn't like that, he can sod off. Draco's kind gesture sliced right through Harry's melancholy. Who cared what that gutter snipe Weasley thought? At least Harry had friends who cared enough to stick by him. Professor McGonagall had told him while at Hogwarts their house would be their family. Tell the Dursleys, Slytherin was all the family he needed. Bugger Weasley said, thank you, Draco. He put his hand on his friend's shoulder and squeezed tightly. You're a true friend. Draco grinned at him. You're not so bad yourself. When they went up to dinner, the Great Hall looked fantastic. Festoons of holly and mistletoe hung all around the walls, and a full dozen Christmas trees stood around the room. Wizards are a bit more creative with holiday directions, Harry said as he sat down. What do Muggles decorate with? Millie asked curiously. None except for Harry knew the slightest thing about living like a Muggle. They all sorts of ugly plastic stuff, Harry told her. He was as gaudy and tacky, every bit of it. Trumpery? Tracy asked, Rich knew many words. If you say so, Harry laughed. What's plastic? Tracy asked, confused. Harry thought about it for a minute. He couldn't find a way to explain it. It's a Muggle thing, he finally settled on. Don't worry about it. A Muggle thing, Pansy sniffed. That says quite enough. So looking forward to the holiday, I was Abraham and sat down with him. They wouldn't be seeing him for several weeks. Harry knew it was the older boy who got him looked out for them. He missed Jessica too, who always been at a smile and a kind word for any of them. Harry was indeed looking forward to the holiday, though he'd been denied his first choice of Lizzie Malfoy and Wayne by the Dursleys. He at least wouldn't be forced to see those horrible Muggles. The Christmas feast at Hogwarts was going to be a thousand times better than anything he ate at Private Drive. With no classes or schoolwork to occupy him, Harry thought he might devote some time trying to find who Nicholas Flamel was. The library would be open during the break, so he could roam at will amongst the stacks. Maybe one of his friends would be able to find out from their parents. With nothing vital to do, the mystery was quite sort of great on him. At breakfast next morning, Eli Malfoy sat down next to his brother, reached for the sausages. All packed and set to go. I didn't tell you, Draco replied. I'm staying here at school. What? Elon sounded completely flabbergasted. Yes. Someone has to keep Harry company. What do you mean keep Harry company? Harry's coming with us, coming home with us, Father said. Father invited him, yes, but Harry's worthless Muggle said no. He's got to stay at Hogwarts, so I'm staying with him. Father's going to be angry. You know how much he likes his family to be together for the holidays. I'll just have to deal with it, Draco said, not saying concern at all. I'm not letting Harry spend Christmas alone. We're the only ones in the house to sign up. You don't look troubled at that. I suppose it's a good thing. You have to tell him yourself, though. I'm not going to get yelled at over this. No one's asking you to. I'll take care of Father. The first year's had a bit of an emotional parting after breakfast was finished. Every girl hugged Harry and Draco, the only two who were remaining at the school. Millie hesitated to hug, and Harry saw her start to offer her hand to shake, but she set her jaw and grabbed her arms around him, squeezing the breath out of him. Theo, Crabbe, and Goyle all shook hands. Harry might never have righted with the quill again, so strong were the bigger boys' grips. At breakfast, Harry and Draco were all alone in the Slytherin house. He sat by the fire talking long into the night, and when they rose, the sun was already well up in the sky. With nothing else to do, by day they searched the library for information on Nicholas Flamel. The library was as unyielding of information as Hagrid had been, but they still kept at it, browsing the stacks, leafing through any book that looked promising. By night they shared stories and spent hours talking about nothing at all. On Christmas Eve, Harry went to bed looking forward to the feast the next day. He wasn't expecting a visit from St. Nicholas, nor did he expect any presents. He'd never gotten presents before. Woke in the morning to find a pile of brightly wrapped packages at the foot of his bed. He was very shocked. Looking at the tags, he saw that they were from his friends and their parents. It brought a tear to his eye. Harry Christmas, Harry, he smiled Draco, who was not rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Harry scrambled out of his bed and pulled on his dressing gown. You too, Harry Christmas. Great Scott, I got presents. Draco was yawning. Of course you got presents. You think we'd all forget about you? Harry felt his cheeks burning. I never gotten presents before, he said in a low voice. What? Draco asked, still yawning. What'd you say? I said I've never gotten presents. Before Harry spoke up, his cheeks still flushed. Draco stared at him. Those bastards, he exclaimed. Harry knew it meant the Dursleys. Well, bugger them. Open your presents. Harry picked up the top parcel. It was a decent-sized box wrapped in shiny silver foil. There was some Daphne's parents tore it open to find several tins of polish and a polishing cloth. The note said inside for a broom and wand. He smiled. A practical gift very suitable. His next parcel was wrapped in shining green foil, but was from Deal's dad. So it was a tool letter and wand sheath. The intricate designs ensnared the eyes. He put it with his robes immediately. Next package was from Goyle's mom and dad and contained a 5 set of gobstones. That was excellent. Now he wouldn't have to borrow it set if he wanted to play. Draco immediately challenged him to a game after breakfast. Crabbe's parents had given him a match raven with feather quills and inkwell-filled silver ink. He didn't know that he'd ever had the cause to use the ink, but the quills are very nice. Nancy and her parents brought Ron a subscription to the Daily Prophet. He pitched several times they all to get the paper, and I was saved the trouble. Crabbe Goyle bought him a cardboard box and filled it with candy. There were birdie spots, every flavor, beans, chocolate frogs, freezing whiz-bees, and other things he'd never heard of before. Even the snack trolley in the Hogwarts Express didn't have most of the stuff. He nibbled on the sugar quill. From the Davises and the Bolsters, there were a dozen boxes of new clothes. Harry looked down his tatty hand-me-downs and flushed red. They could have been a bit more subtle about that, Draco commented, looking up from his own presents. These rags, Harry said, absolutely disgusted with them. Millie pulled them off, zoned them his new trousers. The green shirt with dad, Draco said, was absolutely lost in the design of polished. Would in one case. When Harry dressed himself properly, he looked in the full-month mirror. Very nice, he told him. What a smart, dressed young man you are. If only you could do something about that hair. I can't believe this pile of clothes. Harry exclaimed. This must have been also expensive. It's too much. Did you forget that Millie's mother was a fashion designer? Draco asked, finally tearing himself away from the Dewan case. It's probably nothing for her to get all that. She's good friends with Miss Davis, too. He held one of the tags, see? And I bet Tracy helped out choosing most of this. Harry picked up a letter in a muggle envelope. There was no parcel attached to it. Inside the envelope was a note. He folded it and began to read. Receive your message and close your Christmas present. From Antonia and Uncle Vernon. Tapped the note. The note was a 50-pence coin. That's friendly, Harry says. He shoved the note to Draco. What's this? Draco was appearing at the coin. Muggle money. Harry told him, and not all that much of it either. You can't even buy 2 sweets with that. It's not stingy bastards, aren't they? Still, it's rather interesting to look at. Draco was a bit fascinated by the coin. Keep it then, Harry said, laughing. Happy Christmas, Draco. Happy Christmas, Harry. There was only one parcel left. Harry picked up a note that felt very light, tore the paper off. Something fluid and silver and gray went sliding to the floor where it lay in gleaming folds. Draco looked stunned. What is it? Harry asked, picking it up. Well, it's strange to touch, like water being woven into the fabric. That's an invisibility cloak, Draco said. Oh, they're really valuable. It take forever to make. They're expensive and rare. What's the note say? Note? Sure enough, there no come with the cloak and fall to the floor. It's Harry's size. It was written in a narrow, loopy script they'd never seen before. Your father was in my possession before he died. His time was returned to you. Use it well. Very happy Christmas to you. There was no signature. Harry stared at the note. Draco picked up the cloak and pulled it around his shoulders. Well, I'm a floating head, he said. True enough, it seemed as though his hair floating there in midair. The rest of his body was invisible. Father's got one of these, but I've never been allowed to touch it, Draco said wistfully. Sure, all lucky. He pulled the hood over his head, and it vanished from sight completely. Harry felt strange to stare at the note. Harry, what's wrong? Draco asked, pulling off the cloak. Nothing, he replied. Who sent it? Did it really belong to his father? What did the note mean? Let's have a shower. Let's get up to the feast. Harry had never in his life seen a Christmas dinner. 100 fat roast turkeys, mountains of roasted potatoes, boiled potatoes, mashed potatoes, splatters of chipolatas, tons of buttered beans, silver bowls of thick rich gravy, cranberry sauce, and stacks of Whizzer crackers every few feet along the table. The Whizzer crackers are fantastic party favorites. They're nothing like the feeble muggle ones that Harry was used to. Draco invited to hold the first with him. It didn't fill it just pop. It went off with a blast like a cannon and engulfed him in a cloud of blue smoke. They had cheap plastic toys and flimsy paper hats. Inside was a pirate captain's hat. Flaming Christmas hut puddings followed the turkey. One of the Ravenclaw boys they were sitting with, not for Harry and Draco, the southern table would be empty, nearly swallowed the silver sickle that was hiding in a slice. Harry watched disapprovingly as up at the high table. Harry got redder in the face, kept calling for more wine. Then to his amazement, kissed Esmeralda on the cheek, and she giggled and blushed like a young girl. During pudding, a large eagle owl came swooping in and landed right on the table. It was not Arlette. There isn't a letter, Harry said, very confused. Draco was grinning broadly. That's my present. Well, mine and my folks anyway. You're always borrowing my arrows. I figured you needed one of your own. Harry was touched by this thoughtful gift. Thank you, Draco. She's wonderful. Draco correctly. He doesn't have a name. That's her job. Come with something good, will you? Harry promised that he would do just so, and they finally do just that. When they finally left the table, he was laying down with his new album sack of toys from the Wizard Crackers. He was now the proud of a Grow Your Own Warts kit, a pack of non-explodable luminous balloons, and 16 marble figures. The Trigger's almost complete set of wizard chess pieces. How can it be complete? Whereas the other side would need an opponent, right? He will bring his own pieces. The Weasley clan had remained at school for the holiday. Neither Harry nor Draco said anything about it. Vernon just avoided Weasley altogether, but now Harry talked weirdly as they left the hall. "Let's wait for him," he said. It was obvious who he's meant. "I've got a couple things I want to say to that brat." Harry's still angry over the way Weasley had taunted him about his parents' deaths. "Hey, Weasel," Harry said, as the red-headed boy headed for the stairs. Weasley stopped and turned around. He was alone. "Well, it looks like a couple of snakes are braving the sunlight here," Weasley sneered back just as obnoxiously. "Shouldn't you be underground eating live mice or something? Shouldn't you not be here?" Draco asked in his drawl. Yeah. That's They Shook Hands, Year 1, Chapter 12, Part 2. Take care, everybody.